thanks for joining me. It's a beautiful day and I'm out for a ride on my Harley-Davidson, so I thought it was the perfect opportunity to talk about a British biker's view of what is happening at Harley-Davidson at the moment. And the reason I'm doing this is because YouTube is dominated by USA-based content creators, and that's particularly the case with motorcycling content. Also, the vast majority of viewers are US-based viewers on YouTube, and so this means that the views and opinions on motorcycling that we get widely spread around through social media and YouTube in particular tend to be very biased towards the USA. Now, of course, this doesn't mean that the views of motorcyclists from other countries necessarily differ, but I have noticed that there are some big cultural differences, and particularly in relation to Harley-Davidson motorcycles. So I know that Harley-Davidson are going through a difficult time at the moment, and that is upsetting many USA-based YouTubers and their viewers. So I thought it was worth offering a British biker's view of the situation. Now, it's probably worth starting this video just with a quick review of where Harley-Davidson is at the moment and what the problems are which it's facing. Harley-Davidson is facing a sales slump. In the first quarter of 2025, Harley saw a 21% drop in global retail motorcycle sales, and the revenue of the Harley-Davidson motorcycle company was down by 27%. Its operating income was halved. So they've clearly got problems there. At the same time, the current USA tariffs are having a negative impact on Harley-Davidson due to the high level of Chinese made components which they use. At the time of recording this, those imports are subject to tariffs of 145%, I believe it is, which obviously is having a massive negative impact on Harley-Davidson. And at the same time, many dealers are struggling. Unsold inventory is building up. In the UK, many dealers have closed over the last 12 months, and I know that several have closed in the USA too. I know that there are still many dealers left in the USA, but the problem in the UK is that there are now less and less dealers, which means that there are less sales outlets for people to buy Harley-Davidson should they wish to do so, and buyers or potential buyers have further to travel to get their bike serviced and sorted out. So I'm just cleaning the visor there, and that's putting buyers off. I know several people who've been put off because they said, I don't want to have to travel 120, 150 miles to my nearest dealer if I buy a bike and I need any warranty work or service work doing on it. So from watching US-based YouTube channels, I feel that the general impression is that Joachim Zeit has been a disastrous CEO for Harley-Davidson. He's pushed Harley-Davidson in a direction that involves less models available at massively higher prices, which is effectively making Harley-Davidson's they're just toys for wealthy bikers now. And so there's been a lot of anger as well at woke policies within the company, and the push for electric vehicles has generally not been well received, whether you measure that in terms of the reaction of hardcore Harley customers or in the actual sales figures, which have been appallingly low. So all of this has put Harley-Davidson in a difficult financial position as well. Their share price is at a 5-year low at the moment, and not surprisingly, there have been boardroom clashes over the leadership style and the strategic direction of CEO Joachim Zeit, and that's led to resignations and fights, very public fights within the board as well. So many US-based YouTubers are exasperated by what is happening at Harley-Davidson, and understandably so. The main allegations are that Harley-Davidson seems to have lost touch with its core market, and it's no longer producing affordable bikes for the working man or woman, which has traditionally been the hardcore of the customers. So this lack of affordability is also, of course, a barrier to newer, younger riders. And that means that the demographics of Harley riders is aging, and they're quite literally a dying breed. If you have a look at the demographics, when I started riding, back in the late 70s, then a typical Harley-Davidson owner was aged between 20 and 40 years old, and they were typically blue collar, or what we call working class in the UK. But since the year 2000, the age of the average Harley-Davidson buyer has steadily increased, so that they're now in their mid-50s. They're more affluent, and riding Harley-Davidsons has become more about leisure than about the sort of traditional rebellion and lifestyle that it was in the past. The way I understand it, at the core of this anger and frustration in the USA biker community is the fact that Harley-Davidson is an American icon. The Harley-Davidson Motor Company has deep historical roots. It was founded in 1903. It's one of the oldest and most enduring motorcycle manufacturers in the world. And Harley-Davidson has long been associated with American manufacturing pride. The big V-twin engines, the loud, very distinctive rumble of the bike, and the distinctive style of the Harley-Davidson bikes. It's a signature of made in America engineering, like V8 engines. The Harley-Davidson motorcycle is also a symbol of American freedom. It embodies that romanticized American ideal of the open road, individual liberty, the spirit of exploration. I've talked about these things in earlier videos. So, the brand has become shorthand for personal freedom, non-conformity, and it's deeply resonant with the American ethos of independence. And so, speaking as somebody from outside of the USA, I can say that Harley-Davidson is one of the most recognized American brands across the world. It's on par with Coca-Cola and Levi jeans as an iconic American product. And to many non-Americans, a Harley-Davidson is America on two wheels. But this brings me to the point of this video. Outside of the USA, Harley-Davidson is widely recognised, but that doesn't mean that it is universally respected. And I would describe the British bikers' attitude towards Harley-Davidson motorcycles as being mixed. There is some admiration, but there is also scepticism and even ridicule. And there are most certainly important cultural differences, and that's what I want to get into here. So when I talk about culture, it's necessary to paint with a broad brush. So of course, I'm not speaking for all British bikers here. However, generally, British bikers are more performance oriented. They favour smaller, lighter, more sporty motorcycles. And there are a number of reasons for this. If you look at the post-war period when motorcycling really took off, when Harley-Davidson and Indian were producing heavyweight cruisers in America for the wide straight highways in the USA, British bikers were predominantly 500cc singles. And even the most sporty British bikes were 650 or 750 twins, still very light and compact when compared to Harleys. And these smaller, lighter bikes are just much more suitable for British roads. British roads are typically narrower and more riding than American highways, though this road I'm on at the moment is extremely straight. If you're wondering where I am, this is called the Old Military Road in Northumberland, and it's probably the straightest road in the whole of the UK. But I'm going to get onto some smaller, narrow roads in a moment, so you'll see what I see what I mean. And Harley-Davidsons, really, generally speaking, they are just too large, they're too big and heavy for most British roads, and so they're seen as being unsuitable for the British riding environment, really. And of course, in Britain, the culture of motorcycling is very different, as I just said. So from these smaller, lighter bikes, we have the cafe racer scene, and this is culturally very different from the Harley scene. The UK has this strong tradition of cafe racer bikes, naked bikes, sports bikes, with a focus on performance and engineering. If you think of iconic British brands such as Triumph and Norton, and the modern Japanese bikes or European bikes that are popular in the UK, they tend to be smaller, lighter, more performance-oriented bikes. Cruisers, which is the category which virtually all Harley-Davidson models fit into, are actually a marginal and small niche of biking in the UK. Harley-Davidson's appeal to the cruiser crowd, as we call them, doesn't really translate across these British subcultures. Another big issue which British bikers have with Harley-Davidson is the issue of performance versus price. Harleys are just seen as being overweight and overpriced. They lack the technology of other manufacturers, yet they charge premium prices. And British bikers are just not willing to pay all of that money for lack of performance, lack of technology, what have you, when we don't have that same emotional connection to the heritage of the brand. Another issue which is very prevalent in the UK is one of what I would call image over substance. A very large part of the British biking community see Harley-Davidsons as more about lifestyle and image rather than about serious riding. And this is not helped by the fact that the high price of Harley-Davidsons here makes them exclusively or almost exclusively, the plaything of wealthier bikers, the so-called Rolex bikers. So this lifestyle label combined with poor performance in relation to Japanese bikes and European bikes has generally given Harley-Davidson motorcycles and their riders a poor image in Britain. However, of course, Harley-Davidson do have their fans here in the UK. Many British bikers do appreciate Harley-Davidson's long history and the iconic status, and the bikes are recognised as symbols of freedom and rebellion, and that does resonate with aspects of British bike culture, as well as the fact that here in the UK we are very heavily influenced by US culture, and particularly through Hollywood, through media such as that, and so the iconic symbolism of Harley-Davidsons in American films does rub off on us Brits. Certainly within the cruiser segment, even though it's quite small here in the UK, Harleys are respected as being both the original and the gold standard, and they are very popular amongst some sort of styles of biker club in the UK, and when I say some sorts of bike clubs, I mean those that sort of align more with the American style sort of motorcycle club culture. But we have the same problem here in the UK as you have in the USA, in that the demographics of riders, they're aging. But actually, ironically, that has made Harley-Davidsons more popular. Older riders are better able to afford the more expensive Harley-Davidsons, and they typically ride less, which means they appreciate having a bike to admire and polish as much as riding it. And many ex-sports bike riders are slowing up as they're getting older. heavy traffic congestion here. The traffic is just appalling in the UK, and very poor road maintenance, and an ever-increasing number of speed enforcement cameras in the UK makes sports bikes more and more difficult to enjoy. So a lot of older British bikers are turning to Harley-Davidsons. But still, I would maintain that it's a fairly marginal niche within the British community. So I just want to finish by talking about what I see as being a very important difference between Triumph motorcycles, which obviously are a British brand, and Harley-Davidson motorcycles. Now, if you're familiar with the history of Triumph, Triumph went through terrible problems in the 1970s, and we almost lost Triumph in the early 1980s, but it revived again and has been a great success story. And one of the most noticeable aspects of the modern Triumph brand is how they cater to bikes across every different kind of niche. So if you look at the Triumph catalogue, they produce sports bikes, they produce sports tourers, they produce cruisers, big heavyweight cruisers, the 2.5 litre Rocket 3. They produce naked bikes, they produce retros in the Bonneville range, and the many derivatives of the Bonneville range. They produce adventure bikes, and then more recently they are producing small dirt bikes, motocross bikes and enduro bikes. So they, unlike Harley-Davidson, they are successfully producing bikes across every niche. Triumph obviously are a very small manufacturer compared to Harley-Davidson, but I'm just looking at the principle here. And what's interesting is that if a Triumph Bonneville rider meets a rider of a Triumph sports bike, there are no allegations of, oh, it's not a real Triumph, as you get with Harley riders, riding, say, a Pan America or other non-traditional Harley models, shall I put it that way. Triumph just seems to have successfully bridged every major niche. And furthermore, they produce bikes to meet the financial ability, we put it, of different riders. They have affordable entry-level bikes as well as the bigger, more expensive bikes, and that's something which Harley-Davidson desperately needs. And when you look at that, the masters of that are Royal Enfield. Royal Enfield is a company which is booming because they are producing widely affordable bikes that are actually far more suitable for the road conditions in most countries outside of the USA. If Harley-Davidson wants to sell bikes in large numbers outside of the USA, they need to be producing bikes that are suitable for the roads. And as I've already said, the big cruisers, the big Harley touring bikes are just not suitable for the roads in most other countries. And so sometimes I feel that Harley-Davidson have painted themselves into a corner. They have become associated exclusively with the big heavyweight cruiser bikes. And there's no question they are the best in the world at producing those bikes. But outside of the USA, those cruisers are a relatively small niche in the overall motorcycling market. Okay, I'll finish there. So I hope you found that interesting. If you are a British biker, do you agree with my assessment on that? Bearing in mind that I did say I'm painting with a broad brush there. And if you are based in the USA, what do you think of that? And what are your thoughts about the future direction of Harley-Davidson? I would be very interested to hear. So thank you very much for following me. Thanks for watching the video. Give it a like. If you're not subscribed, please do subscribe to the channel. Hopefully I'll see you again next time. Ride safe. Bye.